Hello everyone, thank you again for joining our free online lesson. Hi, so good afternoon to Hakim and also Muhammad Azam. So my name is Nabi Fikri bin Shaizan and I am application engineer charging for the D&M sector for the acadsystems. So for today's I will share you about the cable and harness tools inside of Inventors. Right, so basically this is the agenda for today. So first of all, we're going to open up this circuit box and we're going to add some connected pins where we can create some wires, add some ribbons, create segments, and probably by the end of this, we're going to create the drawing, the 2D documentation view for this wire segment. So let's get started. Right, so this will be my PCB boards, and there are some wirings that we can do from here. Now, in order to add our cables, right, or wires, you can go into the assembly tab over here. Right, so you need to open the assembly file over here, and then you need to go into the environment tab. Now, from here, you can go to the cable and harness tools over here. So you can just click over here, then you can create the name for this cable and harness. So I'm gonna name this one as a new cable, for example, and I'm going to press OK, and the new cable is being created over here. So I already created some few cables that we will be taking a look on later on, but this is the one that we have created, the new one. Right. So in order to add our cables or some ribbon cables or some wires, you need to add these particular points over here. These points is not actually a point, but actually a pins. So in order for you to create some wires or ribbons, you need to have this pin over here. Right. So let's take a look on how to create the pin, how to add that particular pin. So for this case, I'm gonna finish first. And later on, we can just go back to this cable that we have created. But for now, we're going to add this pin dot over here at the equipment. So we have these two parts over here. So I'm going to start with this. I'm going to add this one. So in order for you to add, you need to open this file, and then you can add from there. Right, so either you open or edit also can. Right, so from here, you can go to the 3D model, and then you can add by going to the harness ribbon over here, and then you can add some pins over here. So if you don't see this harness, make sure that the harness ribbon is turned on, right? Just drop down the corner over here and select the harness tab to turn on this harness option over here. Right, so at the feature, we also have points, right? So you can also create points, but for the points, you cannot actually use to create a wire. But for this case, I'm going to create one, just for example. Let's say I'm going to create somewhere around here, let's say around 15 or maybe 10. And then I'm going to have some axes over here. And then I'm going to add some points between these, the panels and also the plane and also this axis. So I have these particular points. Right. So for this wood plane and axis, I don't need it anymore. So I can just right click to turn off the visibility. So I have this particular point. But later on, if I try to create the wire from this point, it will not allow. Now let's take a look back at the harness. At the pin, you can just click pin, and you can easily click anywhere. So when I try to click the point, I need to create some plane first, like this, and so on. But for the pin, you can just simply click and it automatically create a pin over here, including its name. So I can just rename this whatever I want. Right. You can also take a look at the harness properties to change the name or some of the custom properties. You can just change from there. But for this case, I'm going to add the pin right over here. Oops, I needed to make sure that the pin is set at the center. Right, center. I'll name this one as a PN or you can also leave it as one also can, should be okay. I'm going to continue with the next. And this time I'm going to just click anywhere inside here. Right, so we already added 4 pins. So let's take a look back and save. All right, so I'm going to save and take a look back at the assembly. So the pin and the point has been created. So if I try to use the cables, so I'm going to open back these cables, and it will open back me the cable and harness from here. Right, so this is where you can add some wires, some ribbons, rods, segments, and so on. So we're going to start with creating the wires. You can just go over here and click, and then there are 2 sections, 2 arrows, one which is the start of the wire and the end of the particular wire. So at the start, let's say if you try to click at this point over here, it's not allowed because it's only for the pin. So I'm going to start with clicking at this particular pin over here, and I'm going to click, let's say, at this pin. Right, so let's say I click at this particular pin. Then I can hit apply. So we already have one of the wires in that. Right, so this wire is just a lines. For you to see the view, you can just drop down at the visibility over here. From simple line, you can just switch to render, and you will see the render of this wire over here. Right, so let's say I'm going to add another one, say from pin number 4. Okay, maybe I just start with second one. See, pin number 2. Then I'm going to click at here. And over here, we have also some other things that we can apply. So we can just change the ID. There are categories that you can apply from here. So I'm going to set as generic. And the name. This name is basically the type of wire that you can pick, whether the size or the color itself. So 10 is really quite big. So I'm going to drop down this. I'm going to go with 22. Let's say BLK stands for black, maybe I want blue, so I just pick BLU. And I hit apply. All right, so we have this blue one, then I can add some more. In number 3, then I want different colors, let's say 18s with the red colors, apply. Lastly, with this point pin over here, I click over here, I drop down, and let's say for this case, more yellow. So we have yellow. So you can see it's still not rendered yet, even though I've already set as render. So just pick back the center line and switch back to render display. It will re-render this display. And you can see the wire has been created. But if you take a look over here, at this one is actually pointed outwards, so should be no problem because this is the area of this particular point. But if I take a look over here, you can see its angle is not correct. Right? So it's angle at the left side. So not very nice. So what you can do is that you can apply the direction of the outwards of this wire. So in order to do that, so we can just go back to the print over here. So after you apply the pin, so one more thing that you needed to apply is that you need to apply the connector. The connector, you can go to the Manage tab, and then on Auto, you can just drop down and select the connectors from here. And the things that you want is the wire. We also have ribbon, so we will take a look ribbon later on. So we have wires over here. So all you need to do is just specify the direction, which is select this one, and it will specify this will be the direction. All right, so if I take a look, if I switch at this direction, and I press OK. If I take a look back, you can see the wire is this direction. Okay, right. So I'm gonna select back this face for this direction, and it will apply to this particular direction. Right. So one more problems that we have over here, the direction is already good, but if you take a look that it's actually penetrating this casing over here, this enclosure, it's penetrating this enclosure. So next thing that we like to do is that we want to edit this wire to change the position of this spline. So in order to do that, you can just go back to the new cable over here. And I can select one of the wires, let's say this one. I can just right click and add the points. Right, so I can add point. You can select, let's say I want to add point at this location and also some points at this location. So once the point that I have added is already done, you can add more if you want, but I just want to add 2. So once I'm done, I can just right click and finish. And then this point, you can just right click and select 3D move or rotate. This will open up this gizmo that allow you to edit by just dragging the line over here, the axis over here. So it will drag this particular value. Right, so I have done that. So let's say I want to edit this one as well. Let's say just give it a little bit backward, but up. So we're still close. I'm gonna go back here to edit, make it a little bit backward over here. So it should be okay. So once I'm done, so I can just right click, apply, okay. And then you can see we have now changed the spline of this wire. So we can do the rest. So I can just do it one by one, right, and edit this later on. But another thing that you can edit with this wire is that you can edit back the color or the size if you want to. So if I take a look over here, so I can go back to my cables assembly over here. This is the new cable, which is open up this. If you add the wires or some cables, some ribbons, it will add the particular wire at the below over here. So if you drop down, so we have wires. We have wire 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So if you want to edit, let's say I'm going to edit number 4, so I can just right click and I can select edit wires. And I can select and specify different types of this. Let's say I'm going to go with 10 with this color of green. So when I hit apply, it's become 10, which is quite large and green color, right? So that is basically how you edit the wires. Now we have go through with how to create the wires. So next thing is, let's say I want to add some wires, I can just go ahead and create wires and pick the point, pick the pin to another pin. Okay, next thing is that what we can do over here, we can also create a ribbon cable. So I'm gonna finish this cable. I have also created a ribbon cable over here. So I can just right click and open, or I can just double click to open this file. And then I can add the ribbon over here. Now, this basically, this assembly is basically the same way. You just go to the assembly and create a cable and just rename this as a ribbon. So I can just open back the same settings that we have. So this ribbon, I want to add a ribbon from this connector over here to this connector over here. So supposedly this item does not exist, but for this case, I'm gonna add this ribbon to this ribbon instead. So in order to add a ribbon for this, you need to have the alignment of this, right? So I'm gonna go back and add that particular alignment over here. So how to create the alignments, how to create the pins for the ribbon. So I can just go back again and open or edit back the files. So from here, we have pins, and then we also have pin group. Right, so for the pin, I can just simply select anywhere and automatically create the pin. However, for the pin group, you cannot select anywhere, it does not create. You need to create at the points or some edges of the point. Right, so for this case, I already create one, which is at the sketch over here. The sketch I have at the point. over here. Right? So I have at this particular one point here that I can use to add the pin group. So I can just go to the pin group, select this point, and then there are several things that you can add from here. I can add the number of pin that I want. So the maximum will be 6. I want 6 pin. And then the distance between one pin to another, that's I'm gonna go with 2.4, for example. And then we can see it's still one pin because we need to add the direction. So for this case, I'm going to select this arrow to specify the direction equal to these edges over here. And then this arrow showing this will be the direction. Right, so I want it to be backwards, so I can just flip this to the other sides, and this will be the direction for this pin. We can also add rows, but for this case, I'm gonna leave row as 1 only, and I'm going to hit OK, and then we now have multiple pins created that we can use for ribbons. Now, before we go back, we needed to specify first the direction that we done before. So go back to manage, and then from here you can go click connectors, and make sure this is a ribbon cable instead of wires. Right, so I'll go ahead and click the ribbon cables, and then I can specify the direction will be this, the directions, and the outward direction. So this will be, if you take a look, it's giving me 2 directions, but for this case I only need 1 direction, so okay, you just pick this one. So it's only become 1 direction. Right, so if it's flip back, you can just click this to flip the direction. Another thing that you need to specify is that ribbon will automatically create the cables one by one from this point to this point to this point, but for they need to be, for it to be automatically, you need to specify which point from first, which direction. So you need to select the start pin, which is will be the start, and then you need to specify which first to which area. So I can specify this orientation, and then I can select this face. Right, so this is not the orientation that I want. What I want is from the left to the right, so it will come, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 something. So I can select my orientation, right, and then I can select the edges. So this will be the direction of edges. So this will be the first one, second one, the third one, and the fourth, and so on. Right, so press OK, and then it's done. I can just hit return, and then from here I can go back to my ribbon cable, and then I can click create ribbon cable from here. So I can just click create. I can select my item over here, and I can select the other items right over here. Then you can see it's creating this line cable for you. Right. So same again, you can just specify the name of the cables, categories, and so on. For this case, I'm gonna go with OK, and then you can see it's creating this cable for you. Right, it's creating this ribbon for you. I can click finish sketch, and then I can move it around, then it will also automatic. But sometimes it's the direction is quite difficult. It's cannot creating the spline for me. So let me just specify back this area. So this will be this one. Now, other things that we can edit from here. So let's go ahead and edit back these ribbons. So same again, I can specify the render display or maybe the centerline display. So if I want to edit, I can also add some points like I did before with the this wire. So I can just add points, and then from that points I can click and I can 3D move to adjust the rotations. Other things that you may want is you might want to fold this ribbon cable. So for this case, you can right click and add some more points, let's say around this point area. finish. And at this point, you can just right click and create fold. So this will allow you to fold this ribbon. So I'm gonna click fold, and then you can see it's giving us the axis. The back of this axis will be the original point where it comes. It actually comes from here. So this will be the back, and then the front will be the outputs. So from the back to the front of here. So from here, I can specify the directions, the correct direction of my folds. So for this case, I can select the alignments. So the shaft will be aligned to this angle. So the line of shaft is correct already. I can apply. And then you can see the direction of the fold has been created. So let me just undo. Okay, I can click fold. Right, so I'm gonna realign the shaft here. Then I want to realign this arrowhead. So I can just click arrowhead to align over here. So it will be fold in this direction instead. Right, and then we have some direction that we can pick from here. For this case, I'm gonna go with these options. Then I have this created. Right. So we also have additional settings, additional editing tools that you can do from these points. You can twist it. Right, so I can edit these points and I can twist this ribbon if I want. So once I'm done, I can right click, apply, and it will twist this angle. Right, so maybe I want to flip at these areas as well. So then I can just add another points that I can edit from this. Right, so we have already taken a look at the wires, ribbons. So let's take a look on the segment. So I already have created some wire information beforehand. So let me just finish this table. At the harness over here, so I have created several wires, and then you can see we have many wires connecting to this connecting to this connector over here, and you can see that it's not very nice, not very tidy. So we can use segment to tidy up, group them together into one segment of cable. So for this case, I also have some few things that I have not yet input. So I'm gonna edit this harness just to add more wire over here. So from here, I'm gonna add connect this point, and then this to this point. All right. So same again, this we can turn on for the render display. It will show you the rendering display of this. In this case, I'm gonna go back to center display. So the segment you can find from here. You can click segment. So before we do the segment, I will show you first. So segment, when you clicking the segment, you can select from the points. For example, we have created the points over here before, which is the point that we cannot use to add the wire, but we can use segment to create the point, right? Right, so you can see it's can create the point from that segment. So let me just undo. The point segment that I want is this location. So when I click in the segments, and then you can see it's giving the 0.1 inch. That is the offset from your landing surface. So for example, if I click at this surface over here, then I click this area, and then this area, then right click finish. Then you can see at the top, it actually has some offset. So when you click the segment, you can edit the offsets, giving different offsets. So let's say I'm gonna go with 0.3 inch. Add over here, then you can see it is much higher because I set a higher offset from this panel. Right, so this we don't need, we just undo. So what we want is that we want to create the segment from here. You can create the segment from this particular point over here. And I want to add the offset will be 0.3, so I can just right click and I can set up the offset of 0.3. And I can select at this bottom over here, and it will create the segment of 0.3 from the panel. Right, so once I'm done, I can just right click and finish. Then you can see it's now creating this segment. You can create multiple segments from one segment. Maybe I want to split into two, so I can just click again the segment and click at any of the points, and it will break into multiple segments over here. Right, so again, I can just edit the offset 0.3, and right now I have two split segments from here. Right, so this segment is, we want to use this to group them, the particular wire, into one tip of segment. So to group this, you can use route. So for example, if I want to route these two into one segment, you can just click route. And I can select the wire that I want. And I can select the first segment will be this one. The last segment will be the end of this. So because this is only two segments, I can just pick this one. But if you have multiple segments, just pick the last one. Right, so for this case, just pick this and apply, and then you will see this line is now entering this segment over here, and it's coming out from this segment. So this segment is allowing you to group them together. So if you just pick this first segment will be this last segment will be this. Right, so we have multiple more segments here, which you will be connecting to here. So if you don't want to route it one by one, you can also use automatic route. It will automatically route the closest segments from the wire. Right, so I select all unroute wire, and I press OK. Then all of the unroute wire will be entering this segment over here, and it will be coming out over here. Now, previously, I also have added the new cable wire, which is from this point to this point. Then you can see this point to here is actually quite close. So we don't actually need to input it into the segment. So if you want to unroute it, just pick the unroute and then pick the lines that you want and click apply, and it will unroute that particular wire from the segment. This one I want to unroute. Hit apply, and it will unroute. So I can go back and render the display. Okay, and then finish the assembly. Then we now have this multiple wires, which is the cable and harness, and we have these ribbons wire that we have created before. Now, by the end of this, let's say you want to create a documentation into a 2D drawing. So for this, you can select which type of harness that you want. So we have created this the new cable, but I don't want this new cable. I have ribbon cable. For this case, I want to create a 2D for this harness, which is this connection over here. So you need to open this one, go back over here, right, where you can create the wires, the ribbon. And the manager over here, you have this nail board. This is where you can export it out into 2D. Right, so you can just click nail board, and then you can select which is the drawing that you want. So I'm going to go with IDW, and it will create that particular segment right over here. Right, so this is where you can use to create some documentation. Right, so this is the wire that you can pick. You can move it around. You can specify the dimension if you want to. If I want to change the size, I can select to finish the sketch. And then from here, I can select this view, right click, and edit the view. So I can just specify the scale of this. So much bigger from here. And then let's say if I want to add some more views, so I can just place some connector view. This will be giving me the 3D view of the connectors, something like this. And if you want back the original, the entire assembly of this, you can use base view instead. It will open up this entire assembly. Now, if I want to create dimensions, if I go into the annotates and click the dimension, try to click, I cannot click the dimension from here. In order to create a dimension for this, what you can do is that you can edit back this view. All right, so go back to the nail board, you can select edit, and it will open up this sketch. And then from here, you can go back to nail board again. And here you can add the dimension for the house. All right, so I can just pick dimensionness, and I am now able to pick the points, and it will create the length of this hardness. Right, so maybe some angles and so on, you can just specify properly. So if I want to export some other information, we can go to the property display, select, and then select the item that you want. So for this case, I'm gonna select this segment, and I can select, maybe I want to see the diameter. Right, so I want to see the name and value, then I can just press OK, and it's giving me the diameter of this. I can add some more. Maybe I want to see the length. So you're giving me the length. Now I want to see these wire segments. So I can just click, and then I select this wire segment. And I can select, maybe I want to see the colors. And it will give me that particular information. Just pick the information that you want from here, and it will export it out for you. All right, so that is basically the things that I want to share with you about the Inventor cable hardness. So I hope this is useful for you, and thank you everyone for joining